When I was a boy, my grandmother used to tell us stories, dark tales passed down from generation to generation. Most of them I brushed off as folklore, tales of churails lurking in graveyards, or jinn that could trick you into doing terrible things. But one story always stuck with me, perhaps because of how my grandmother told it. She didn't smile or laugh when she spoke of it, like she did with the other stories. No, this one made her voice drop to a low whisper, her eyes dark with warning. She called it the story of the Bhut Bangla, the haunted house. There was a mansion at the edge of our village. Abandoned, decrepit, with its walls crumbling and vines overtaking the stone. Everyone avoided it. The elders spoke about it in hushed tones, never allowing children to go near it, saying the house was cursed. They claimed that, long ago, it had been home to a wealthy family, but the place had fallen into darkness. No one ever told us what had happened inside that house, but there were whispers of rituals, sacrifices, and shadows that moved when they shouldn't. I never truly believed it, not until I saw it for myself. It happened when I was 21. I'd moved back to the village after finishing my studies in the city. It was supposed to be a brief stay, just long enough to visit my family and help with a few things around the house. But something about the place had changed. The village seemed quieter, darker somehow. People didn't laugh as they used to. My friends, the ones I grew up with, were distant, withdrawn. When I asked what was wrong, they all told me the same thing: stay away from the mansion. I brushed it off as village superstition. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I found myself walking near the edge of the village. The path took me close to the old mansion, and I couldn't resist the pull. It was like a whisper in the back of my mind, urging me to take a look. Just a peek. What harm could it do? The house loomed ahead, silhouetted against the dusky sky, its windows dark and hollow like eyes that had seen too much. The gate was unlocked, rusted with age, and creaked loudly as I pushed it open. The path leading up to the door was overgrown with weeds, the stones cracked and uneven. The front door was ajar, just slightly, as if waiting for me. I stepped inside. The air inside the mansion was thick, stifling. It smelled of dust and decay, like the place had been forgotten for centuries. The floors creaked under my feet as I moved further inside, my eyes struggling to adjust to the darkness. The house was silent, too silent. Not even the sound of the wind or the rustling of leaves outside could be heard. Just nothing. I wandered through the halls, the light from my phone casting long shadows on the peeling wallpaper. The place was huge, much bigger than I remembered. Each room seemed to open into another, the walls narrowing, the ceilings higher. The layout didn't make sense, as though the house was shifting around me. And then I heard it. A faint whisper. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. It was a woman's voice, soft and distant, coming from somewhere deep within the mansion. At first, I thought it was the wind playing tricks on me, but the whisper grew louder. It was calling my name. I shouldn't have followed it. I knew better. But there's something about hearing your own name in a voice so sweet, so inviting, that compels you to listen. I moved deeper into the house, my heart pounding in my chest, my legs shaky beneath me. The whisper led me to a room at the far end of the mansion. The door was heavy, old, the wood cracked and splintered. But as I touched the handle, it swung open easily, revealing a room that looked untouched by time. There was a single window at the far end, draped with red curtains that seemed to glow faintly in the dark. And in the center of the room, standing perfectly still, was a woman. Her back was to me, her long, black hair cascading down her back, almost touching the floor. She wore a white shalwar kameez, but something was wrong with it. It was too clean, too bright in the dim light, as if it didn't belong in this decaying mansion. The air in the room was cold, freezing even, and my breath came out in shallow puffs of mist. "Hello," I called out, my voice weak and trembling. She didn't move. I stepped forward, my instinct screaming at me to leave, to turn around and run, but something stronger pulled me closer. As I approached her, I noticed something chilling, her feet. They weren't touching the ground. She was hovering, just an inch or two off the floor, swaying ever so slightly. My stomach twisted with fear, and I stopped in my tracks. "Who are you?" I whispered, barely able to get the words out. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, she turned her head. Not her body, just her head. The movement was unnatural, like bone snapping under her skin. When her face came into view, I felt all the warmth drain from my body. Her eyes were hollow, empty sockets, and her mouth stretched into an impossibly wide smile, her lips peeling back to reveal rows of sharp, jagged teeth. I stumbled back, my legs buckling beneath me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. She floated toward me, her smile growing wider, her eyes, those empty black holes, locking onto mine. And then, she spoke. "You should not have come here." The voice wasn't sweet anymore. It was cold, echoing in my mind, chilling me to the bone. I turned and ran, my feet barely able to keep up with the pounding of my heart. I could hear her behind me, the soft swish of her floating gown, the faint, sickening sound of bones cracking. I don't remember how I got out of the house. One moment I was inside, the next I was outside, gasping for air, the mansion looming behind me, silent and still. But I wasn't free. Every night since, I've heard her voice. Soft at first, but growing louder. Calling my name, whispering promises, threats. I've tried to ignore it, tried to convince myself it's just a nightmare. But deep down, I know it's real.